So Fairies Foul essentially opening up the kind of moodiness of the Manchester,
the Weird
the Weird
Sisters.
Sisters, and presenting them my future, and kind of like that's about the future, kind of prophecies about kind of Macbeth himself, who doesn't necessarily know whether to believe these prophecies. That in your kind of script has these kind of gothic barmaids in a kind of hacienda style club.
Yes.
They kind of groom him almost for his.
Yeah,
and
yes.
that's quite not quite sure.
Well, the equivocation starts there because they sort of mention the fact that he will be king, that he will rule the city, and this is where his ambition.
Yeah. Track 3 we've got Lady M, and that's where we introduced Lady M as a kind of like super DJ kind of thing. And if we go back to kind of, I mean, I used to go to Hass, so I was at 88, 89. We were trying to tap into that kind of legacy of Manchester music history of acid house, as I say. So she's obviously banging these tunes out. So introducing her as the DJ was really nice. So that's a really nice track to kind of get it a more electronic kind of
it's a cross between acid and garage.
I don't know really, but and then Invincible, that's with the Bobo, and that was more kind of where the character's starting to kind of think about, is he invincible, and the tragic flaws of him believing his hype, really, of him wanting to go beyond being a kind of Mancunian bouncer at this club where his wife DJs, into possibly running the club. But at this point it's Duncan, isn't it, who owns the club, who's the kind of main gangster in Manchester at the time. And we've got to remember, we both grew up in kind of Manchester, kind of mad for it, kind of Gunchester times, where we saw the explosion of the party scene, but we also saw the explosion of gangsterdom, really, and people getting shot, and the drug dealing, people trying to make a quick buck, really, out of that time. Really.
Well, at the time, door security wasn't regulated at all, and of course, the hacienda was a manifestation of recreational drugs, and many were harmless in comparison today. There's not this explosion of what we have today, and it was all related to music. So it was an environment where people shared that experience, and it was community based.
Yeah, interestingly, for your adaptation, we came up with this as red powder. So rather than ecstasy or ketamine or speed, it was this. And he's a United fan, and he kind of, he's a bit of like aggro in the Red Army. He's got a history of violence and hooliganism, so he's coming from this kind of selling as a door bouncer this red powder, and he's kind of it just all comes together, that kind of ambition, that greed, that criminality, the music and everything.
The red powder is an allegory as well of sorts. It's all about control, and who controls that red powder, and who controls the narrative. And of course, I wanted to stay clear from any stuff out there, because it's not about the glamorization of drugs, and it's certainly not about the glamorization of gangs. I'm telling a different story. I'm trying to show some important points to the Macbeth story, also how it correlates to that particular time.
And then we go on to track 5, Scorpions. It's a famous line, it's Scorpions in my mind.
Yes.
So what's in Shakespeare, what's that moment then?
I don't know the full text, but basically after the murder of the Duncan and also his friend Banquo, he realizes that from the story narrative, almost the gates of hell have opened, but the fact that he has these images and this dark spectre over him is now all about his survival, self-preservation. So the Scorpion text, I can't be too literal with it. Other than that, these are the dark images. This is what he sees.
So he's actually become a killer now. Obviously egged on by Lady M. He murders Duncan in the toilets of the club. He blames it on the security, and then in the kind of aftermath, he's going to his hangers-on in the club after the rave, saying, "I am the king." And then we go into track 6, Long Live the King. So he's saying, look, I'm the new king of Manchester, really, and that ambition and greed, it's suddenly off.
It is, and it's all set during a banquet where I've sort of have this vision of everybody sat down eating some kind of fast food takeaway, and various gang members are offering him that adulation, gifts, and at that point, yeah, he's reached that sort of apex where he realizes he's king before his initial downfall.
Then we've got track 7, Sleep No More. Again, that's kind of based a little bit on the text about
he's paranoid.
Yeah, and he can't sleep no more. He's murdered sleep. He's murdered Duncan, but he's murdered sleep. He's accused of murdering.
Yeah. This is where his paranoia, his guilt starts to emanate. He realises that he's at a point of no return. But I like the way that you sort of put that into a song. That we have his the after effects of what he's done. And this is the full horror that's facing him.
Then we've got track 8, Mule Boy, which is more kind of thinking back to Manchester, because in Manchester at the time you had Moss Side, Cheetham Mill, Salford, and Mule Boy in my mind was more kind of, well, in your film you've got a young black lad, haven't you, who's getting chased. You've done
at the very beginning we have this powerful scene of a mule boy being shot by Cawdor. And this affects Banquo's son Fleance, who's also a mule boy, and basically they are the people that distribute the drugs and carry the weapons, so to speak. So Mule Boy it's a wonderful. Well, I like the way that you've composed it, because I think it's a dark, conflicting story in terms of a melody and the lyrics, but it shows the desperation of what's going on.
Yeah. Then we move on to track 9, Double Trouble, with Mila Todd on vocals, and again that's another reference to Double Trouble, the speech by the Weird Sisters,
which is an interesting. This is the point where Mancbeth knows somehow he is not so much betrayed, but the fact that he's fallen for his ambition, but he's misunderstood the witches who have basically played him, and it's the equivocation where they've been very ambiguous, and they've not told him the complete story. And in my particular screenplay, the Weird Sisters become the judges in the court, and basically they send all the gangs down, and Mancbeth is now in a convicted criminal, but he's now facing retribution.
Yeah, so, and then we kind of had to talk about Strange Ways, Strangers Who We Call Them, the Smiths, Strangers as the prisoner in Manchester, and it kind of brings it again back to the actual reality of what was happening to these characters in Manchester at the time. There was gangstering, there was murder, it's not glamorous, you end up in prison, these repercussions for your actions. And then I go into track 10 with Sleepwalking, which has Kate Hicks on vocals, and Sleepwalking is more reminding ourselves of the downfall of Lady M, really. While Mancbeth is in prison, her insanity is developing as the guilt of what she's kind of brought upon, really.
Totally, she's vulnerable at that point, and she basically goes off the rails through the sense of guilt of what she's done, because she returns the daggers to where Duncan has been killed. He's been murdered by Mancbeth, but she returns the daggers, and she's in horror with all the sight of blood, and this deeply affects her. So she soon acknowledges the guilt and the what she has done has affected her, and there's this speech about her having a blood spot on her hand that she can't wash off.
So a lot of the lyrics from that, I looked at the Shakespeare text, and I just put it in kind of my own language, but a lot of it, if you go through the lyrics of the song, you will find it in there in the text. So I was really pleased with the kind of lyrics.
I think it's an excellent track.
Then we go on to Burnham Wood, and this was interesting because this is with Pet Twin. another great musician from Oxford. And with that, we had discussions, remember, about how on earth are we going to make a song about a forest moving towards a castle, which is kind of like, his lair, which is in the Shakespeare thing. But for us, it was like, well, there must be another thing that can refer to Birnam Wood, how Macduff gets his revenge and he's on his way and he's going to take on revenge on Macbeth. And if he's in Strange Ways with Macbeth, maybe there's a way we can talk about Birnam Wood being a kind of super skunk or something. Instead of like a wood, it's this woody kind of like drug that kind of almost he installs into Strange Ways and takes over his drug empire. So it is a way that he's on his way to take revenge, really.
Well, and it has some kind of association with spice, which is that awful drug that is consumed in prison. Yeah. Also, Birnam Wood is a reference to a housing estate as well, but it does have that. Yeah. I think you introduced the idea that it becomes something that you smoke and consume for recreational purposes. But yes, this in the original script, it's all about this large forest, which basically is a camouflage of Malcolm's attack on Macbeth's castle. But we've sort of obviously set it in a prison, so it'll all start off in a greenhouse where they're all sort of camouflaging themselves with bits of green, and sort of almost like there's a rallying call for this Malcolm's gang to come together and to take.
Well, it's Macduff who eventually does the deed.
Yeah, it's Macduff that does the deed. It's
in the canteen.
In the canteen, or we'll have it either in the gym or the canteen. But this is where Macbeth drops his weapon, which we'll get onto the next song.
So track 12, we've got He Was Born in a Different Way, which is with Emma Hunter, another great singer from Oxford. Yeah. That's interesting because, again, it's using that line of the witches or the Weird Sisters' prophecy to Macbeth was, no man of a woman born can harm you. And that gives him this false sense of security, really. So that's a key thing of his downfall, really. He's relying on that. So to be born in a different way is that, again, Macduff was born, but you say the punchline. How is he born now?
Well, he was born through a caesarean procedure, and of course the Weird Sisters foretell that Macbeth can't be killed by someone born from natural birth, but the fact that Macduff has been born through a caesarean operation means that he was not born in a natural way. So this song brings the climax of how Macbeth realizes that the foretelling of his ambition to be king, well, they proved right in one way, but the fact that he can't be killed is his downfall.
And then the final track 13, I Don't Want to Be Saved, again, pet twin on that one. This is the idea where the final fight scene between Macbeth and Macduff, he doesn't want to fight him initially, does he? And then but he's also wants his legacy to be kind of maintained. If it's not today, tomorrow. It's that famous line. So I wanted to get that kind of tension between, will he fight him? Does he accept responsibility for his actions? How is this story going to end?
Well, it's interesting, and I love the way that you compose those lyrics together, and James who sings the song. But what is interesting at the end, in my screenplay, and of course it's William Shakespeare's original script, the fact that he accepts his fate, and he drops his weapon, and he acknowledges the fact that he is defeated. And that's his legacy, that as much as he strove for ambition, and it was ambition unchecked, the fact that no one sort of challenged him through the course of all these murders and these actions, at the end, it's that legacy of the fact that the prophecy has defeated him, as much as Macduff does kill him, the fact is that his ambition has failed. As much as it was initially driven by his wife, Lady Macbeth, he will go down in history as a failed king, and
that's the tragedy, I guess.
That is the tragedy.
Yeah.